So today we're going to look at a 20 power Plan-Apochromat on a high numerical aperture 0.8, but that's a dry. So that's still a high numerical aperture for a dry, especially for the 20 power objective. We're looking at some cheek cells. We've just taken a swab and we're getting an image of those. And it's on DIC. And I'm going to adjust the shear plane. I'm going through a pseudo dark field, going from a positive. Here's a negative bias at this point. And I'm going to turn it back the other direction. Just a little more. Got a positive bias. We can see the nuclei here of the cells. And I can do some other adjustments to get my contrast increased. I think I'll turn it to some other objectives now. This is a 40 power. This is a low numerical aperture, 0.75. It's not any kind of a special objective. Let's adjust the DIC. I'm getting my three-dimensional image at this point. Then after this, we'll try some oil immersion. We've got a Plan-Neofluar with a 0.75 numerical aperture. This is a 40x, and we've got the cheek epithelial cells on it. And I'm going to do some adjustment. This is the shear plane. I'm just going from the positive to the negative bias in here. I'm just trying to get some different images with this microscope. Try this again. We've got a 20x Plan-Apochromat with a 0.8 numerical aperture. We have some pond water specimens, and we have it on DIC. So this is it's a high numerical aperture, 20x, but overall 0.8 is not a high aperture whenever you're talking about like oil immersion, which is going to go over a 1.0. So let's take a look at the specimen. I'm going to do some adjustments. I'm just doing some different things to get some contrasting. I'm adjusting my shear plane on the DIC. These are moving around quite a bit, so it's hard to get much in focus. I've got another specimen in a different plane that I'm going to try to image here. Okay, now I've got a 63x oil immersion objective lens. This is a 1.4 numerical aperture, and I also have a 1.4 numerical aperture condenser. I have oil on the top of the condenser lens. I have oil on the very top of the cover slip. And we're looking at the cheek cells again. I'm going to adjust the shear plane a little to get the image varying. So depending on how you adjust this, you can see more or less contrast. Pseudo dark field, going into a negative bias. Right about there is probably the point for the negative bias, optimal point, and then a positive bias right in here. And I can move the X, Y just a little bit, look around at different areas on the slide, get it in focus. Okay, 63x objective oil. Okay, now we're on a Plan-Apochromat 1.4 numerical aperture, and we're looking at epithelial cheek cells under DIC. We're using oil immersion for the top of the cover slip, and we're using oil immersion on the 1.4 numerical aperture condenser. So at the top lens of the condenser has oil on it. These are all the cheek cells. There's quite a few on this slide. Now what I'm going to do, I happen to have a zoom, and I'm going to zoom in. This is an Optivar zoom. And the more we zoom in, then the harder it is to get something in focus. This is zoomed all the way out, so this would be considered a 1x on the Optivar. So this is approximately 1000 power magnification. This is zoomed in 2x on the Optivar, so approximately 2000 power magnification. And 2.5x on the Optivar, so consider that to be 2500 power magnification. I'm going to zoom back out, and I'm going to adjust my DIC. We are in a negative bias at this point. Go back through the pseudo dark field, and now we're into the positive bias. And I'm just going to move around on the slide a little more. And I think that's about it. Okay, now we've got a Plan-Apochromat 63x 1.4 oil DIC objective lens. This lens is rated for DIC. It's got the DIC marking on it. And I happen to have an oil immersion condenser that's a 1.4 numerical aperture. So I'm using oil, a drop of oil on the top lens of that condenser. Normally condensers are 0.9. And that's fine, but if you want to get a little more resolution and out of your objective lens on something that's a 1.4 numerical aperture or or a high numerical aperture objective lens, then it's better to use an oil immersion condenser. You want your condenser to be a higher numerical aperture than your objective. In this case, the maximum we can get is a 1.4. And I'm going to adjust the shear plane. Going through a pseudo dark field, going through some negative bias. Adjust it back. Now I'm getting a positive bias in here. And I'm going to do just a few more adjustments to see what happens. With DIC, you've just got to play around with all the adjustments until you get the image that you need, so you can see the details that you need to see. There's not necessarily a right or a wrong as long as you're getting true DIC. If you don't have all the settings right, if you don't have all the right equipment, then you're not going to be getting good DIC. You're not going to get true DIC. Okay, so that is the 63x 1.4 numerical aperture lens.